The largest bank collapse in history. Our own Washington Mutual, it didn't have to happen. Who says this? Well, our guest. And why do they know? Because they were on the inside. Dan and Eric Johnson, expert financial advisors tonight on Public Exposure. I'm Stan Emerton. Before we get to this fascinating story, we got to remind you where the Around the Americas project is. The Ocean Watch vessel is all the way down to Miami, so they're not dodging icebergs anymore, and we're going to be following them all the way. Hopefully we'll talk to them again around Christmas time, 2009, as they're down around Cape Horn. So be sure to go to aroundtheamericas.org. Now let's go to September the 25th, 2008. Right here I'm holding in my hand a press release. It says J.P. Morgan Chase acquires the deposits, assets, and certain liabilities of Washington Mutual's banking operations, creating the largest U.S. depository institution with over $900 billion of customer deposits in the world, at least in the United States anyway. Eric, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Eric and Dan, Eric Johnson, why is it that you guys know stuff about finance?
We are trained as financial advisors to look at things from a global perspective and a comprehensive perspective that gives us not just a inside or an outside perspective, but really a balanced, objective look and assessment of where the financial.
So you are financial advisors together.
That's correct.
And we're going to talk about what you were doing at WaMu at the time, but for right now, how is it that your theory, your practice of financial advising is different than what those of us on the outside may think? Eric?
Well, one, we both have sort of a unique background. Dan has run his own business before. He's worked for Fortune 500 companies. He's worked for international companies, starting new businesses, both in China and in the United States, both on a large scale and a small scale, both. He's had all kinds of background running his own business as well on the East Coast for several years, and then he's been in this industry now for 5 or 6 years. Myself, I've practiced law for about 10 years, brought that into the table, and I've been in this business about 6 or 7 years as well. Dan and I are a little bit different too, because we're a team, meaning that what we do is we work together, and we have other members of our team also. And because of that, our background, sort of a unique combination of our skills and the synergy, we're able to look at investments around the world and also just a single company with a little bit different perspective than most.
And in learning more about you in preparation for the show, you guys are relationship based, are you not?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Washington Mutual built its business around a customer-focused relationship model, and on the retail side, that was prevalent and really part of the culture for many, many years. But on the investment side, relatively new part of the business, it was very transactional, like most banks are. So they brought us in as planning-based advisors that are, when you are planning-based, basically, it's implied that you're long-term relationship focused. So they brought us into the bank to really culture and develop that relationship model to complement the bank side.
Well, let's go to the culture of Washington Mutual. Let's go to 2006 Washington Mutual Annual Report. Here's some out of the report itself. It says, that's why we remain singularly focused on meeting the needs of everyday people and small business owners by building on a rich tradition of innovation, growth, hard work, and simple humanness. Because when customers love us, it not only feels good, it's great for our bottom line. Was that the culture of Washington Mutual at the time?
It was definitely the culture, and it was not just a philosophy that was preached or propaganda for marketing. It was literally, what I really liked about WaMu when I first arrived in January 2007 is that I really saw that people were doing things not for the bottom line, but for the best interest of the customer.
So you guys were together then? Yeah.
We joined up as a team back together again a couple months later. But in January when I started, that was really what sold me.
So where did you sit?
I sat basically in every branch. There's a financial advisor. So we sat with the bank and met the customers day to day, and it was basically our responsibility to, on the investment side, to promote the best interest of the client, the best interest of the bank customer, and that's really was a philosophy that was prevalent in the bank branches at the WaMu organization, and Eric and I, we fundamentally believe the WaMu philosophy, practice the WaMu philosophy in our practices at the Ameriprise, And that's pretty much.
That's where you are now at Ameriprise,
Yes.
and then you've maintained the relationship base as opposed to a transactional model. Okay,
Exactly.
let's go back to the 2000 report. It says we know where we're growing. In 2006, 2007, did you feel that you knew where WaMu was growing?
I felt at that point that they were kind of getting away from the mission a little bit.
What did you perceive the mission to be?
Well, I guess one way to put it is WaMu is a lot like other retail organizations that have come out of Seattle. They're informal, they're very casual, but very customer service oriented, extremely. If you look at Nordstrom, for example, and you compare them to other companies.
Well, if we go to the next
Macy's,
slide,
for example.
out of the annual report, they say we care more than about just the bottom line, and in fact, that's what WaMu was known for, was
Correct.
its involvement in the community. So let's move on, though, because there's a foreboding in the 2006 annual report about 2007. Let's go to the first pull quote. It says, most forecasters are predicting a slowing economy in 2007. They similarly forecast a slowing housing market due to its sensitivity to changing economic conditions. The subprime portion of the mortgage market in particular is expected to be under pressure. And then let's go to the next pull quote. It says, our home loans business is expected to be the most challenged in the forecast environment. My goodness, in 2006, at the end of the year when they drafted this report, what did they know?
I believe they had a fairly good idea. They didn't realize the scope, and not just them. All the bankers had a fairly good idea that the subprime mortgages, which most of them were pretty heavily involved in because they were the most profitable area, there was a potential problem.
Okay, help me understand, they were the most profitable area of banking, but weren't they largely responsible for becoming incredibly unprofitable?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm missing something here. Connect the dots.
Okay, when originally, and I'll talk about WaMu specifically, when they decided to get into the subprime business, this was the fastest growing area of banking and lending. Lending specifically had a very high profit ratio in it. And subprime, that was thought to be the fastest growing area, and also they thought relatively safe. And this is why. You take a high-risk loan or high-risk applicant and you give it, but you don't hold that loan. What you do is you bundle it with a whole bunch of other loans, you bundle it up, and then you sell it to investors. So you don't hold the risk. But it became like a game of musical chairs, where eventually once the music stopped, those left holding the loans, sitting in the chair, or without the chair in this case, those were the ones that didn't do very well.
As a relationship-based financial advisor, do you help customers get into this market to buy into to loans like that?
Not specifically. Our role is to understand the makeup of someone's financial picture, and wherever the needs are is to identify and to recommend action items or recommendations. And sometimes it might be if someone, typically when we meet with somebody, if someone has a loan that doesn't make sense or could benefit from refinancing, we will recommend that. But our objectivity comes into, even though we were working for Washington Mutual, never was any pressure put on us to sell or pitch a specific product, only when it was in the best interest of the client. So,
okay, we're going to be getting more to that. I wanted to go to one more slide, and it's the final part of 2006. It's not from Kerry Killinger. Let's go to the next one, because in that one, this is the way the picture of WaMu at the end of fiscal year 2006. $21 billion in revenues, $3.5 billion net, $343 billion in assets. This is not a small organization. 99th in the Fortune 500, and almost 50,000 employees of Washington